Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a really quick video here. This is going to be an entry video into kind of a contest slash thread that Robert Z just put up. Simple, right to the point. Question was, what are or what is a song or some songs that you just absolutely can't stand, would have no problem if they just took an eraser and erased it off the album, it fell off the face of the earth, you never heard it again, the whole nine, blah blah blah. So that was kind of the theme of his thread. So again, quick question, thought I'd jump on board, just answer it really quick. So my first pick, which I decided not to pick stuff out because I didn't want to just grab a bunch of different stuff to show this particular one, but one of the number one on my list, I'll catch flack for this from a lot of people here in the VC, it is a good chunk of the Beatles' solo careers. I could even say a good chunk of the Beatles' careers, for that matter. Those of you that know me know that I'm a very mediocre Beatles fan. You know, again, we're not talking about how big they were, how influential they were. I mean, they were the biggest of all big. That's not even a discussion to have. But just in terms of my personal taste and what moves me when I hear it, the Beatles are just like one average other band that has some songs that I like. They're nowhere near Beatlemania for me, never have been. So when you break it up and go even deeper into their solo career, I'm even further down that ladder. So whether it's John, George, Paul, or Ringo, you know, I don't own any Ringo albums, so I could definitely do without all of his stuff. I've never heard anything by him that I like. Except the movie that he did, Caveman, back in the 80s. He was hilarious, and that was a great movie for 80s junkies. Lennon, probably from a solo standpoint, he's probably my favorite of the four. If you look at just album one, song one, to the last album, last song, I probably like more of his stuff in there. But even still, there's a good chunk of that I could easily do without. I could care less if I ever heard again the rest of my life. But I do have the Lennon box set, which is a really nice set. Paul McCartney, kind of the same thing. I have his box set with a lot of his solo stuff, which is also good. But album for album across the board, there's so much stuff I could just not do without. And George might be the worst right after Ringo, because, you know, he has two albums that I kind of dig a little bit, and everything else I could truly do without. But so that's number one on my list. So number two, actually I shouldn't say number two, because these just kind of all in random order here. What I also tried to do was pull stuff, not, you know, some obscure song from some obscure band that maybe a lot of people in the VC wouldn't know. So I tried to pick popular bands with big hits that most people, or pretty much everyone in the VC, is going to know, for the most part. And never confuse the idea that just because I say I don't like a song doesn't mean I don't recognize what made it great and what made it a hit, and that it should have been a hit. It's just not touching me in that way. And so these are kind of some of the songs that fit into that, such as Roy Orbison. I always say his name funny. My lips don't want to work right with it. But this is from 1989, and you know, he had the hit "You Got It" that came out then. And I couldn't stand that song. After hearing it once or twice, first time you hear it, you're like, oh, that's kind of neat. And then it's like, oh my God, stop playing that. And it just got old really, really fast. But you know, Roy is a genius, but it's just, again, just one of those songs that got played so much it drove you crazy. And this may be even a better example of that. This is Prince Parade. And, you know, a lot of great hits on this album. You know, you had great songs like Girls and Boys, Mountains, what else? God, going completely brain dead here. Sometimes It Snows in April. It was arguably the most beautiful thing that Prince ever wrote, was Sometimes It Snows in April. But the song Kiss, which I think was the biggest hit off of this album, to this day, I cannot stand that song. Now, I loved it when it came out, just like everybody else. But the problem was, when it came out, I was working as a bouncer at a bar, at a nightclub actually, that had a comedy club upstairs and a dance club and bar downstairs. So every week, they would give away 80% of the tickets in the comedy show were given away for free. People won them in raffles and office parties and blah, blah, blah. But that's how they filled up the comedy show, because you get the people there, they buy tons of alcohol. That's where the money is anyway. So they would do that. And so to prevent people from coming down and just leaving after the comedy show, what they would do is, as soon as the comedy show's getting ready to let out, we go downstairs and tell the DJ. There's a couple of songs that he always had ready to go, that as soon as the crowd comes down out of the comedy show, he says, "Hey, welcome down from the comedy show. Hope you enjoyed yourself. The first 10 couples on the dance floor will get free tickets to next week's comedy show or another comedy show in the future." And so all these couples would run onto the floor and start dancing. But the key was always, you'll get the tickets after the song is over. That was always the key. And Kiss was the freaking song that they played every single time. Every single time they played it, it worked. People stayed, people danced. It, you know, it set the mood for the club, it kept more people there, and it just kind of snowballed and blah, blah, blah. The problem? It worked. So every single week for 3 years, it's like Kiss, 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 Kiss. That song never changed from that position. And it was just like, oh my God, the comedy show is over. Here it comes. It's like, oh shit, not again. Oh, it's like bringing chills just even going through that thought process, because it just got so ingrained in us. But anyway, so yeah, that's why that song can just, now I'm okay with getting rid of it. Moving right along. Fine Young Cannibals, The Raw and the Cooked. This is their album from 1987. They had that big hit, She Drives Me Crazy, and another single off of this, which they had a video for, was a song called Good Thing. I didn't get that song back then, and I still don't get it now. I can't stand it. I mean, that's one I would definitely not mind being erased right off of this album, because anytime I play this, I skip over that song every time. Just didn't get it at all. Reach the Beach by The Fix. And of course, the big hit they had back in the 80s was One Thing Leads to Another, which is off of this album. Pretty big kind of new wave hit. I didn't like it back then, don't like it now. Just one of those songs I just did not connect with. Even though it was definitely, I don't know if it was their biggest hit, but it was definitely one of their biggest hits back in the 80s. But I just do not like that song. And it always pops up on just about every 80s compilation CD you ever get. That song is on there. I'm just like, skip, skip. Next, we have the Eurythmics. Of course, the one and only Annie Lennox. And, you know, they're fantastic, obviously. You know, big major hits like Sweet Dreams are made of this. Not Right by Your Side, but Here Comes the Rain Again. Who's That Girl is still probably my favorite song by them. But the song Would I Lie to You, cannot stand that. Matter of fact, Annie, please lie to me and tell me you'll never sing that song again. Even if you will, just, you know, give me a moment to think that I maybe never have to hear it again ever. I just cannot stand that song as much as I love the Eurythmics. Now this next artist is probably one, make sure I turn this phone off, it might start ringing here. It's probably one that you guys think you want to erase the entire artist, but not moi. Michael Bolton, and this is Michael Bolton Gold. It's kind of a greatest hits album on gold vinyl there, and yeah, I mean, I do like Michael, and it's especially, you know, stuff like Said I Love You But I Lied. My opinion, one of the greatest pop slow jams, if you will, of just that time period. I mean, Michael tore it up on that song. Oh, I love that to death. But then when you flip the album over and you start outside the other side with How Am I Supposed to Live Without You and Love Is a Wonderful Thing, anything to get rid of those songs. I cannot stand those things. But yeah, I got Mike's back, but just some of that stuff has to go. Now this next group, I actually picked this album out, or a couple songs off of it. They're kind of taking the hit for a few different bands, okay? Because it's kind of all the same thing and same feel in my mind. But I'm going with kind of that stuff that was going on in the late 90s with bands like Everclear, Sugar Ray, and a few others too. You know, so songs off of here like Father of Mine or I Will Buy You a New Life. That's that 90s stuff that I just, ugh. With all the great stuff in the 90s, like that was the stuff that drove me crazy. I Wanna Fly, you know, like all those type of, I could not stand that stuff. So again, Everclear is kind of taking the hit in this video for the number of different bands that did songs like that. Yeah, what else can I think of? Because again, I know those were the two by Everclear, and then like I said, yeah, I Wanna Fly, and like Someday, wasn't that Sugar Ray, I believe? Like all that crap in there, just, ugh. But this overall is a good album. You know, songs like Santa Monica I loved, and they do a couple really cool covers on that album, so definitely love the band, just not that part of the 90s. And last but not least, another artist maybe many of you want to just toss all together, but I do love John Mayer. Or I always have to kind of qualify that when I say when he does stuff that I love, I really, really love it, and it's absolutely fantastic. When he does stuff I don't like or everything else, it's just really blah to me. There's not a lot of middle ground for me with him. But he has a lot of stuff that I do like. But the song Daughters is just one of those, again, if I could just possibly find a way to never hear that song again. Yeah, good message and all of that, which is always nice when people are putting positive messages in the songs these days. Oddly enough, have you heard the new Accept album? But I'll do a review of that sometime later. But yeah, Daughters just really gets on my nerves. I mean, he's already a very nasally, you know, floaty, cloudy kind of singer, you know, just so when you start putting a song like Daughters with it, all of a sudden it's just like, oh my God, just feel like I'm melting in my chair. Not like a good melting, just kind of like a, give me something behind it. But anyway, so that's one that will go on my list too. I would not mind that song being completely erased out of his catalog. So there you go, Z-Man. Those are some of the songs that as Fine Young Cannibals say, drive me crazy. But yeah, as always, let me know what you think, guys, and we will talk to you soon. All right, take care.